Hey ladies, welcome back to my channel, Parenting with Purpose. I'm Christian, and today I am going to share with you my story on how I became a single mom. Just to let you know ahead of time, I'm going to be separating these videos into parts, maybe 3 to 4 parts. I'm not sure yet. But what got me to this point, a couple weeks ago I went to prayer night at my church, and the pastor was asking for, people to raise their hand if they needed healing. And so since I was a child, I've always suffered with what the doctors would call childhood migraines. And so I don't know what they would call it now because I'm a grown adult. And so, but I've had these migraines for years. And I went up to, the altar, and I was talking to one of the men, one of the elders on the prayer team. And he said, so what do you need prayer for? And I said, I've been having migraines, and lately these migraines have been coming. They were coming, I think I had them every day that week. And they were just constantly, I was going to bed with it, waking up with it, and I couldn't take any more Tylenol. I couldn't do anything else because it just wasn't working. And I realized at that point something is really going on. And so I went up to the altar, talked to one of the elders on the prayer team, and I explained to him. He said, well, how long have you been having these migraines? And I said, since childhood. He said, oh wow. And he said, okay. He said, well, let's pray. And so, he waited. He didn't go straight into prayer. And, one of the things that I really admired about how he started his prayer was he said, God, we wait on you. I'm waiting on you. And I was like, wow. So he went into the prayer, and out of everything that he said in that prayer, the one thing that stuck with me that I just cannot forget, he said, God release her from whatever happened in her childhood. And it was like that, like something clicked, and I was like, release me from what happened in my childhood. So later that night, I still had a migraine, but it led me to ask God, what happened for me to get these migraines? Because this is from childhood, and I want to know. I mean, it has to be deeper. If Tylenol isn't going to work, if the medicine from the doctor's office is not going to work, it has to be deeper. And I was doing research on, like, is there different foods that I can start eating? And one of the articles that I was reading, one of the doctors, he was saying that it was more of a spiritual attack. And I was like, okay. So at that point, I'm like, God, this is too much. So I'm coming to you, and I'm asking, like, where are these migraines coming from? Literally, I need revelation. Reveal to me where these migraines started from. And I kid you not, I was trying to prepare for, the next video for YouTube, and I'm like, God, I don't even know what to talk about in the next video. And he just revealed to me, like, talk about your story, how you became a single mom. And to be honest, y'all, I was starting from the relationship that I was in, and how I became a mom and then end up becoming a single mom. But as I was, really just taking time to think about it and pray about it, I didn't realize how deep it was. I didn't realize how much I had suppressed over the years. So I'm telling y'all, it is so deep, and I pray to God that the revelation that I received, I hope and pray that it helps you in some kind of way. So what started it, when I was young, my mom and my dad, they got divorced when I was really young. I think maybe around 11 or 12 years old, when my parents divorced, and I didn't get the love that I needed. Let me pause right here. I absolutely love my parents. I love my mom. I love my dad, no matter what. I honor them. I'm so glad that God has blessed me with my mom and with my dad. But in order to get to the root, it's time to pull off the veil. It's time to, uncover the things that we try to walk around and keep hidden or left unsaid. And here we are, the ones that are, suffering behind it. And that's where the sicknesses and diseases come from, because you're holding things in that your body was never meant to carry. So it's time to get to the root of it. So back to the story. I absolutely love my mom and my dad, but I did not get the love that I should have gotten. And so over the years, I started to get angry, not understanding where the anger was coming from. All this anger was built up inside. I was, as I got into my teenage years, all the lying, all the cussing, all the, the having sex before marriage, all these things, and even starting to, being introduced into drinking alcohol in my teenage years. And so not understanding where all of that was coming from. And also, I remember I never got hooked on it, but there were a few times that I even tried smoking. And so when I finished high school, I remember when I finished high school, I tried to hold down a job. I tried to, go to college, and I was doing both of them full time and ran myself to the ground. It was just too much for me to carry. And so I remember one night my mom came to pick me up from work, and I was looking out the window, and I just got to a point like tears just started coming down my eyes, and I was like, God, like it has to be more. It has to be more to life than this. And I didn't know what the next step was, but I was hungry. I was like, it has to be more to life than this. Like, I am not going to work and school and dragging myself to the ground, and I have nothing that's fulfilling me. And so I end up going to the military. I end up signing up to go into the military, and I was so nervous but excited. And in the military, I mean, the drinking really got out of hand. I remember going on deployment, and when we would hit ports, I would drink. Like, that was the first thing that I would do. And I'm not talking about taking sips. I was literally drinking. I was taking shots with the intention to get drunk. And because I wanted to forget about everything that I was going through, everything that I ever had gone through in my past, I wanted to forget it all. And so I was running from it. So, drinking, I didn't smoke after high school, thank God, but you know, but the drinking really did pick up. And I having sex again, but you know, again before marriage, so it was a constant cycle. And eventually I met this guy. We had, you know, we were really good friends, just pure friends. Like we were spending pretty much every day together. So we started off as friends, and we end up getting into, you know, obviously we were liking each other. And we end up getting into a relationship. That relationship, you know, it just kept getting better and better, but you know, we end up moving in, and I knew, I was raised, so I knew better, but I still end up moving in. We moved in together, and eventually we got engaged. So I remember going on, it was like the moment we got engaged, a couple months after that, I had orders to get deployed. So we were deployed, and like, I don't know, maybe like 4 months after, but I remember the ship that I was on, we end up getting deployed. So my fiance at the time, he, you know, he was back at the apartment. Well, the moment that I left with the ship, it seemed like things just took a turn for the worst. And I mean the worst. When I got on deployment, you know, the communication started off okay, but eventually, not too long before the deployment had really, you know, taken off, the communication pretty much just started to drop. And that hurt, you know, because I wasn't hearing, going on deployment for anybody is, you know, it's not fun. It's not fun. I mean, obviously you have your pros and cons on deployment, but this is not what this video is about. I enjoyed my time in the military, but you know, from the relationship aspect of it, the communication, it dropped, and my feelings were hurt. I was going through so much on that deployment, and I was wearing this guy's ring. And I was being faithful. I was, you know, being myself, like, you know, doing my job, taking care of responsibility, but being faithful, making sure, you know, that I'm not bringing any type of embarrassment on him, because that's being loyal, right? And so on deployment, I mean, it was a very long deployment, but I just remember I end up I found myself chasing after him during this deployment. And what I mean by chasing is I started calling, because I wasn't receiving emails. I started calling and, you know, spending money on phone cards and just pretty much chasing, you know, trying to get a hold of him, and, you know, trying to force things to work out. And by that time I had lost control, and it just wasn't good at all. I could tell that, you know, he had met somebody else, and that he was not being faithful. I knew that deep down in my spirit. And so when the deployment ended, I remember being so heartbroken. I remember being just sad and angry, because I was carrying his ring. Like, I was wearing his ring around. And so after I returned from deployment, and I remember returning to the apartment, and I gave the ring back. I remember getting all my clothes, and I was blessed because my senior chief at the time allowed me access to stay in the barracks, and so that helped me out to get some some space, to get some free time. And me moving out, it was just a very rough time for me. It was just rough. It was just too much for me to handle. And so during this time, I'm living in the barracks. I moved out, and it just created a lot of friction, a lot of drama during that time. And I remember a couple days, I think it was a couple days, but not too long after, the guy ended up calling and wanting to work it out. And although I knew that I still loved him, but I also knew that I should have just stayed where I was. But we end up talking. We end up, trying to work things out and moving back. We end up moving. I remember going over there one night. That's what it was. I remember going over there one night, and we were standing outside and we were talking, and obviously expressing our feelings for one another, trying to work things out. And I remember as we were heading upstairs, I remember hearing this voice so clearly. At the time, I didn't know it was God. But I remember hearing this voice so clearly. And it said, if you go upstairs, you are going to get pregnant. Y'all, I didn't listen. I was so hard-headed. I was so heartbroken. I was broken. And I was looking for love. I was looking for love, and went upstairs. Obviously, you know what happened because the title of this story is how I became a single mom. But I end up moving back in. And what I'm going to do is pause the story right here, because there is so much that took place after. But I'm going to pause the video here, and I just want you to actually take the time to think back from me lacking the love, from me lacking the nurturing side of my parents. That left me empty. There was a part of me that was empty, that had started to look for love in all the wrong places, all the wrong things, all the wrong faces, and it just led me down the wrong path. As you can see in this part of, the story, lying, using profanity, having sex before marriage, it was so much that I was doing. Drinking alcohol, trying smoking, all these things. I was looking for acceptance. I was looking for love in all the wrong places. That is the root of it all. This story is not the entire journey, but I'm going to pause it right here. In the next video, I'll describe to you what took place after I decided to move back in. Something that I do want to bring up to you is that this is why it's so important to parent with purpose. Parenting with purpose, yes, we're partnering with God first and foremost. We need to be centered on God, period. There's no other way to put it. We need to be centered on God as parents, as mothers. And if there are any dads that's watching this, dads, you are included too. We as parents, we have to be centered on God. And the beautiful thing about parenting with purpose is that as parents, we're getting our healing. It's not solely focused on the kids. We as parents, we need to get our healing first before we can want the best for our children. So I'm going to stop the video here. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, go ahead and leave it in the comment section. If if you're starting to get some insight, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. I would like to reach as many moms as I can, because there are so many of us who have been down the wrong path, and we're striving to get to where God wants us to be, because truthfully he has given us our turn of being parents. And again, I said it in the last video, if you did not get the nurturing, whatever you did not get in your childhood, if you didn't get the love, if you didn't feel like you had a voice growing up, if you didn't get the nurturing side of your parents, God has put you in position to change that, to break that generational cycle, to start a new cycle with your family. And the beautiful thing is, he wants to do it with you. So I'm going to stop the video here. The next video will be part 2, and I'm going to share with you what took place the moment I decided to move back. So I hope you were blessed by part 1 of this video. I'll be back, and I am praying for you all. Be blessed.